What's up? How we doing?
I'm good. I like. Let's start with a couple wins here. What do you got going on? Any good wins, personal or business?
Yeah, the team up in Cincinnati is crushing it. So we had 3 listings go live last week. 2 of them got accepted. Ran open houses throughout the whole weekend. So they picked up an extra buyer and seller each. So we've got another like 3 or 4 listings coming up this week. Going to do the same thing. Just keep doing it. Keep running the open houses. Keep getting new buyers. So they're crushing it up there. And then down here, we picked up a couple of new buyers. So that's been exciting. So yeah, it's been a lot lately.
Yeah, it sounds like it, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Mr. Kevin.
Yeah, what's going on, everybody? Yeah, so win for me. Randy, kind of same that shared on our team meeting on Tuesday. Been doing a lot more video content recently, which is I'm going to use it for some paid social media ads. So that's what I have going on right now.
And they look sharp.
Thank you.
Very sharp. That's
Thank you.
awesome. Cool. Who else wants to share a win? Michelle, Tasha, Cynthia, anything. It could be personal or business. You can unmute yourself.
Hey, Randy, I'm taking a family vacation to Disneyland next week.
Oh,
Nice.
all right. I always forget. Disneyland is where? Which one is it? Florida or California?
California, Anaheim.
Okay, so it's close for you, at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah, we'll be up there for a week though.
That's cool.
That's awesome, man.
Cool. All right. Anybody else? One more win. Who wants to share before we get going?
No more wins.
No one's got any wins in life, man. What is going on?
That's awesome.
I'll share a win. One of my partners actually wholesaled another land deal in Tennessee, 25 grand, dude. It's like
Dang.
crazy. It's a piece of dirt, and I'm trying to think. I think he locked it up for 25, I want to say, something like that, or 20, and sold it for 45. So that's his biggest one. So that's cool. So yeah, that's a cool win with one of my partners on the land business. I got a couple escrows going here in San Diego as well. So, and my 10-week-old baby girl is growing fast, man. Sleeping 8 to 9 hours a night. So that's a huge personal win. So all right, cool. Let's get started. I'm going to share my screen today, actually, for a change. Usually we don't do too much sharing screen wise, but I'm going to be speaking about a specific topic that is near and dear to my heart. I've done a lot of these. Eric has not really done these, or he hasn't. So he wants to learn as well and provide feedback and questions, just like you guys. So housekeeping real quick. These trainings and masterminds, they are national, right? So anyone here could be from, who knows, any city and state in the US. They are for investors and realtors. And most likely, if you're here, you either want to learn how to work with realtors as an investor and improve that relationship, right? And so it could lead to more business. Or if you're a realtor, you want to learn how to work with investors better so you can start learning on how to create repeat business for yourself and not have to chase new clients every single week, right? So that's our audience, really. And then we do have a Facebook group under Investor Agent Nation. So I'm going to put that in the chat right now. So if some of you are not part of it, feel free to join that group. And we have a YouTube channel where we post the recordings as well of this. And I'm going to put that in the chat also. So that's it. That's the housekeeping. today's topic is part 2 of what we discussed last week, which is how do we become the go-to agent or investor, depending on, you know, who you're trying to target, right? Like I said, but how do you do that? And we covered a lot of amazing things 2 weeks ago it was. And today it's a specific strategy. So we're going to kind of dive into only one specific strategy where we covered, I would say, several ways 2 weeks ago. Today, we're going to just stay on one. And the one strategy that I absolutely would, you know, vouch that it will work like a charm and build credibility for you and get you more business is a concept of a rehab subgroup. And Kevin is aware of what this is, who's on here. We actually did one, I guess it was what, a year ago, maybe, at one of Kevin's properties.
About a year ago.
Yeah, so they are really, really effective, very easy to put on, and it absolutely achieves what we started talking about a couple weeks ago, is kind of the credibility factor, the authority, relationship building, it becoming real because you're now doing something at an actual property, which is even better. So when we discussed ideas 2 weeks ago, we did a lot of like discussions about, hey, maybe start a little meetup, you know, right, in the back of a restaurant or a bar, and start creating a networking event, right? So we went a lot into those. So this is no different. This is a networking event, but it's at an actual job site, okay? And most investors that are getting started and or realtors, when they are actually working with an investor on a particular flip, don't leverage it correctly. That's one of the number one mistakes. It's no different than what Eric is sharing with us as a win. Like, hey, look, we got 3 listings going into escrow, but because of that, in the neighborhood, we're doing open houses, and that is a leverage, right? Idea of how do we leverage one listing to get more business, right? So it's the same thing with an opportunity when you have an investment property that you're going to be flipping, and you know you're going to be closing on it. This is something you should plan into your business plan. And if you're a realtor and you are going to be working with an investor and list that property when it's finished in rehab, don't wait. Don't wait until it's rehabbed and then list it and do all that. That's great, right? You will do that and you will leverage it that way. But why not leverage it while it's being renovated, right? And provide exposure not only for you, but for your client, your investors, and others involved in the project. And through that, you invite anybody you know, anyone that you even could think of that was solely interested in real estate and told you at some point, any friends or family, and they were like, oh man, I love these flipping shows on TV. Did you see that one? This is what they want to actually experience live, right? They see it on TV, but why not bring them to your property so they can actually experience it themselves, right? So if even they're not in the business, but they love watching these shows, invite them. And here's why. What I found that a lot of people that end up coming, like those, not, you know, that are not in the business, they could become your private investors. So to me, it is an opportunity to raise funds, right? Because again, they see you at a property, they see you now as a credible investor, right? Especially when you start educating them, which is what I'm going to go over at one of these events. And these are very simple to put on. So what you're looking at here is, this is years going back some years. This is when I moved to San Diego and we started growing CT Homes, our investment company that I was involved with for 7 years and did like 350 plus flips. So one of the things we did early on is these subgroups, and we would do them, honestly, probably every other month. We would do one of these subgroups. And ideally, what we would want to do is do one at the beginning, just when we acquired it, right? So when it's just raw and like nothing is really touched, you know, it's got to be walkable, right? You got to be able to walk through the property. So maybe clean up some of the debris and things of that nature, so it's safe, right? Then we would do one in the middle of the rehab, and then we would do one when it was finished and staged. So literally, we would take our audience that came to the first one and keep them entertained through that whole project, 3 times they would come back. And of course, each one we would have new people come because we would be marketing it to everybody again. But there is a high probability that the same person will literally come to all 3 because they want to now see, because they're now committed, right? To be like, oh, I want to see what it looks like now, right? Because on the first one, you paint the vision, then they're in the middle of the vision, and then they see the finished product, right? It comes to life. So that's what you see here. This is one of the ones we did when we first acquired it, because you can tell there's, you know, it looks pretty dated. And it's very simple to put on. It's at a job site. You're going to pick a project. It could be yours or someone else's, like we discussed, right? Especially if you're a realtor working with an investor. You discuss the before, bring plans and renderings, the during and after, like we talked about. But at each one, you want to have a specific things you probably want to talk about, right? And put more focus on. So at the before, where you're going to dive deeper into the plans and the renderings of what you're about to do and spend more time on that topic, right? Educate the audience that's there about, you know, how did you even find an architect? And if you needed one, and what, you know, did you need one to knock this wall out that you're about to, like, talk about those things that most investors that are getting started will have a question about, right? These are the things that they are always thinking, like, they're afraid when they walk into a property and be like, how am I going to determine what wall I can knock down without putting a beam? Or these are the questions they want to know, right? Then the during one, at the during one, which is, let's say, somewhere in the middle of your rehab, where the property is starting to take shape, and that usually is when there is like sheetrock already up, right? And they're putting finishing touches on electricity and outlets and things of that nature. Maybe the cabinets are not up yet. So it's taking shape as a home, so people can see now, oh, okay, wow, this is what it looked like before. And this is where I would actually show photos of what it looked like raw. And I would have them printed on my printer, nothing fancy, and taped in those specific rooms, right? So they can now see. So if there were people there that didn't come to the first one, they can see what it looked like before. And the ones that came for the first one, they probably don't even remember anymore, right? So I would have simple printed photos on my printer at home in color, and I would just tape them in those specific rooms, right? And still have the plans. So for anyone who wants to review it, right? And then, of course, the after, right? In the after, you're going to show the photos of before and during, right? So now you're just adding an additional photo that you're going to just tape to one of the walls simply in that room. And usually the photos that take the biggest transformation would be, you know, your kitchens, right? Living areas when you're knocking out walls and expanding them. Like, those are the best ones to show a visual of on the wall, right? Where you get to tape it, right? They take usually about 2 hours, right? No more. We always wanted to do it on a Saturday, but you could do it on a weeknight, especially in the summer when the days are longer, when it comes to sunlight. But we usually did it on a Saturday. So it was from 10 to 12 p.m., 2 hours. We would bring a case of water, a table for people to register, right? And we did have a waiver that everybody signed, which honestly, you can probably Google and find a simple waiver. Not a bad idea to have one, just in case, right? So if someone gets hurt, I mean, it is a job site, right? So that's just a side note to think about, right? But we did have that. Everybody would sign it. No one had any problems. And I believe the waiver also stated that we are going to take photographs, that you're agreeing for us to be able to take photos and videos, and you might be in them, right? Because I want that footage for future marketing, right? Because then once you do one, you can leverage the footage from the first one that you ever done to market the second one, right? So then it's easier to market the second one because now you have some footage and media, right? What else? So we talked about the tip. So that's what it is and how to create one. Any questions on that before I go to the next stage?
Would you typically have like a contractor there also to answer any questions while you're walking it, or would you be the person that would answer those questions?
No, I would love to have my contractor. Actually, the one that we did with Kevin a year plus or so ago, his contractor was there, and I can
Okay.
tell you it's amazing. Like the attendees dig that, like because they want
Yeah.
to hear from the contractor even more than us, right? Not every contractor feels comfortable, right? But the right ones that want to grow their business too, they would love that opportunity and have the spotlight on them, because I would literally set him up, man. Like, and Kevin and his dad, we would, sing his praises, how amazing of a contractor he is, and then we would give him the floor. And Sean just owned it, right? He was loving it, right, Kevin?
Oh yeah, he was definitely enjoyed being in the spotlight.
Yeah, so some people
Yeah.
will be okay with it. Some, of course, they might not. So you just kind of, whoever is leading it, and it should be you kind of taking the charge and facilitating. There's got to be a facilitator, right? So even if you're bringing in, let's say you're an agent and you're working with an investor and you're going to be listing that flip, take charge of being the facilitator, right? And managing expectations of who's going to speak, and then hand the floor over. Hey, Mr. Investor Client, hey, why don't you talk to the people here on how you acquired this property, right? Because you might have not even been involved in the acquisition side. If you were, well, then you talk about it with your investor, right? Just don't hog the floor, and then you discuss that, and then you might hand the mic over to, and really, you don't need a mic, but you get the point, because you're in a home, you don't really need a mic. But then you hand the floor over to the contractor, like, great, how about you now talk about, what we're doing here, right? How is this coming to life, or how will it come to life, depending what stage you're at, right? And then you, as the realtor, would be talking about the last part, right? Well, here's how I'm planning on selling this, and here's why I'm excited about this property, because this thing's gonna be the best property on the block. This is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a yard. Everyone loves it. And then they're gonna knock this wall out, which I love. Look, you're gonna talk about some of the marketing you do. You're gonna talk about comps, right? Like, this is where it's your time to shine as that realtor that knows what the heck they're talking about, right? So it's a team effort, but yeah, some will be okay with it, some won't. But it's a good question, and I'm gonna get into a bit more of that too. Okay.
We got a hand raised.
Oh, sorry.
CC.
Yep.
No, you're good.
Hey, I had a quick question in regards to this this slide that you just went over. And you may have already recapped on there before I came in, but let's say that I see a site where some rehab is going on. I'm not familiar with this particular investor, but I'm wanting to build a relationship, or I'm wanting to get to know them. What do you suggest as a pitch to be able to bring value to do this? Everything that you just mentioned right here totally makes sense. I got it from here, just about at the beginning.
Yeah.
Help me with that.
So what I'm hearing is like, what if I'm not actually involved in that rehab?
Yes.
Right? So I'm not the investor, and I'm not the realtor that's gonna even list the property, or I didn't even find the property. How do I potentially approach an investor that has a rehab and see if I can do that with them? Is that?
Yes, and bringing value to him or her as a realtor, because I'll definitely share that part. But even bringing other potential investors there to look to create this subgroup.
Yeah, so I think the way I would approach it, because I never had that problem because we had our own inventory, right? Our own flips. So it was easy. But the way I'm thinking about it, and I love where you're going, because like, hey, why not? Can we figure it out even if I don't have a property, right?
Yes.
So here's I think how I would approach it. It's part of like some of the discussions we had months ago about how to approach investors to work with, right, as a realtor. Well, when you're doing that approach that we discussed, which is basically be like meeting them, let's say at a meetup, right? And be like, hey, what do you do? Oh, I'm a flipper. Great. How do you acquire properties? Oh, I do direct mail. Amazing. Cool. Here's what I do. I would love to see if we can maybe work together, right? So you need to use some of the scripts that I talked about months ago, which I
Okay.
don't have time to get into.
Mhm.
But part of my pitch in that conversation, and probably not in the initial meeting, right? When I'm meeting them at a meetup, because there's just so much happening. But I would then, with the serious one, that I think there is potential of maybe doing some work together from co-marketing and all the things we talked about months ago. So
Mhm.
that might be a good training for you to go back and listen to, how to work with investors as a realtor.
Mhm.
But what I would work into my conversation with them, probably in a second meeting, or maybe even in the initial meeting, as like a seed, right? And be like, hey, some of the things that I like to do with my investor clients, if I end up working with investors and listing their properties, is I like to do a rehab subgroup. Have you ever heard of one?
Yes.
Right? And boom, you pique their attention. Like, wait, what? What's a rehab subgroup? Oh, I'm glad you asked. Well, let me tell you. And then you explain it, in a short form, right? And how it can benefit them, right? It's all about them, right? And I bet you'll get their attention,
Mhm.
right? Because no other realtor is thinking this way,
Yes.
right? They're just like, oh yeah, I got this relationship with an investor. They just hand me listings. It's so easy, blah, blah, blah. They get lazy, right? And if you come in and start presenting these outside the box, really they're marketing ideas for the investor, right?
Mhm.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's an advertising marketing tool, right? And it's no better. It's freaking at the property. So that's how
And I
I
would say too,
But go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead, Randy.
No,
I was
that's
gonna say I would
say.
I would come from it as like, how would it benefit an investor if you do one of these subgroups and you're doing it at their property, and you have to kind of sell it to them too. So like if you stop by and saw a property being worked on, or somehow the conversation come up, you can always have that conversation of, look, you'll be there. Why don't you speak a little bit? And it kind of builds credibility for that investor as well. If somebody's coming in and they seeing what they bought the deal for, they're seeing that they have contractors that are actually doing a deal. Maybe some wholesalers show up or something like that. And for them, it's kind of getting their name out there as well. So, if there's future deals to be considered, people might actually just reach out to him because they just walked one of his properties that's being worked on. So there's like different ways you can kind of sell it. And you're just gonna have to find what that investor's gonna want. So if you're just sparking up a random conversation and they've got one going on, try and find some of the pain points in the business or what they're looking for. I'd say 95% of investors, it's other deals. So then that would be where you have the conversation. You say, that's awesome. If we run one of these sub 2 groups, you'll be up there in front of everybody having a conversation, speaking. Be great for you to get your name out there and how well of work you do. And maybe there'll be some agents in there that can also bring you a buyer or also some other deals.
Nice. Okay.
So the only challenge you're going to run into, of course, is if they already have a listing agent part of that deal, that could get a little tough. So I think I would only agree to do them and say, look, first I want to build a relationship with you. Maybe let me do some open houses for you. Eventually, if we end up doing some business and I get to maybe potentially list one of your properties, this is what I would love to do with you, right? Because it could be very awkward for you to be putting on a subgroup at a flip that the flipper investor already has an agent locked in to list it.
Absolutely.
That agent might not be too thrilled.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I would maybe ask the conversation if that did come up, like, do you have a listing agent? Because we get investors all the time that we ask that a conversation. They say, we have somebody in mind, but we don't have anything. And we just go, look, we're not going to step on toes, but how can we help you? And the listing that we had last week, and it was that exact same way. I asked him, I said, do you have an agent? He said, I've got somebody in mind. And that was the one, Randy, that I actually gave the contractor's information to. And because of that, he decided to list with us instead of the other person. We walked him through the whole process. We helped him with design. We helped him with choices. We showed him our marketing. But if I'd have been like, oh, okay, yeah, you've got somebody in mind, I'm just going to back off, I would have never got that listing. I just said, okay, that's awesome. Here's my contractors. Let me know what you need. Kept in contact with them. And then about a week before the project was done, he's like, listing is yours. Let me know what we need to do.
Yeah. So it's beautiful because anyway, you leverage the contractor relationship. That was our other training we did a few weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly.
basically,
But
get you.
yeah, if I would have backed off like immediately,
Yeah.
like just because they have somebody in mind, I mean, I think,
Yep.
especially in most of the markets we're in, there's a million realtors. I think everybody knows 10 of them. So you just got to stand out and make yourself look good.
Yeah, and the clue here would be, if the deal was brought by the realtor, then there's a high probability that realtor would be listing it, most
Yeah.
likely. But you can't assume that. You still want to ask, right?
Okay.
But
Yeah.
if you got it from a
Yep.
wholesaler or direct mail, then it's like 100% game on, right?
Yep.
Yeah, they probably have an agent in mind already, but that doesn't mean they can't switch because you're bringing something amazing to the table like this. And if you have an
Mhm.
exclusive listing program that we talked about throughout, like it's a slam dunk, right? So anyway, so what?
So what I just got, you just made me think of something. So I'll go out and find a good property and pitch it to an investor as a wholesale, and then I will let them know that I can create the rehab subgroups as a marketing strategy for them to get them out there as an investor. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, you can do both, because if you're a investor yourself and you're locking up deals, right, and want to wholesale it to another investor,
Mm-hmm.
and then you want to list it because you're an agent, well, then that's a whole different game plan, right? But in
Yeah.
that strategy, yes, you can let them know you're going to do a rehab subgroup. So yes, that's one way of doing it. But what I was talking about, if you're meeting an investor, if your goal is to build relationships with investor as a realtor so you can get more listings, then you need to listen to where they're getting their leads from. If they're getting it from a wholesaler, then there's no realtor involved there in most cases, right?
Yes,
That tells
right.
me that there is a really good opportunity that I can probably get this listing if I build a relationship with this investor on the back end. You see?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was getting at.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, if you're a wholesaler and you lock up a deal, and I've done this, I've wholesaled a house to my own previous investment company, CT Homes, right? This was a few years ago. I wholesaled them a house. We made, I think, 60,000, my partner and I. But I said, I want to list this on the back end, just what you described,
Yep.
right? And then I listed on the back end as a realtor, right? So because you could kind of make the rules, right? When you got the deal locked up, you choose who you want to wholesale it to, right? And if that rehabber is game to let you list it, then they probably make it to the top of the pile, right? Like, all right, I think I'm going to consider you, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's so many ways you could get paid. That's that, But let's stick to the topic of the subgroup then. What do you cover a little bit more deeper? I think I touched a little bit about this already. So like, how do you, the investor will go into how they found the property, right? So if they got it from a wholesaler, great, explain that. Like have the investor go into the details of that. Like, how did you meet the wholesaler? How many other offers were on the table? Like, what was that like? People want to know about the experience of the whole thing, right? Of the acquisition. Like, so I would actually prep my investor to go to really pretty detailed way of explaining the whole acquisition aspect, right? Oh, and like if there was drama, like there's always drama because there's always competition in most cases, unless you're meeting with the seller at the kitchen table and there's no other competition, which is rare. But you have to explain all of that, right? Because that's what people want to hear. They're like, oh man, like this is what goes on in real life. Like there were 5 other rehabbers like you competing, but because you did this, and this, they went with you. Like, man, that's cool, right? Like, imagine this. I know, and Kevin, I don't know who does this here in San Diego, and they still do it. There was a wholesaler here. You know how they pick the rehabber who gets the deal? They actually have them pull a card. Like,
I know
Kevin,
exactly who you're talking about.
Right? I've
Yeah.
never attended one of these, but I've heard from the community that have attended where they would have a private showing of the wholesale that they locked up, that they want to wholesale. And it was one window. It was like almost like an auction window in a sense. But really, you submitted your highest and best offer, and then they pulled the card or something. Were you at one of these, Kevin?
I have been to one of these. My dad's been to a few of these. I mean, I can tell everyone who the wholesale company is if you want.
Well, no, we don't. I'm talking about more about the actual experience, because like that's a unique experience. Imagine your investor shares that with the attendees, right? And say like, dude, I pulled the card and I won this deal. They're like, what? What do you mean you pulled a card? Yeah, I pulled a card. And like, that's a cool story, right? And so it was more about the experience again. And literally there could be some wacky experiences that can happen, right? Like the guy that I'm actually going to bring him on one day. His name is Greg, and Kevin, you heard a little bit probably about him, but I actually was involved in helping him make a decision on buying a rehab from a wholesaler here in Spring Valley, because he came to me as his agent that he trusted, right? So I gave him my feedback. I went to the property with him and I said, dude, buy this freaking thing, man. This is a home run. This was like end of last year when the market was going like this. And I'm like, dude, you're gonna buy this and you're gonna fix this leak and we're gonna relist it as is, right? So he got that deal of an Instagram DM. Like some investor DM'd him. Like, he's like, hey man, I see that you do some flips in San Diego. I'm in Fresno and I got this wholesale. Do you want to take a look at it? And he was like, okay. And it turned into his biggest profit. He made 30 grand on it. Like from an Instagram freaking direct message. I'm like, like these are the stories you want to share at these subgroups. Like that's what I'm getting at, right? So the deeper you go, cool stories, the better. Go ahead.
Do you typically brand any of the material you hand out? Like if you're doing this, are you branding? I'm thinking like you could probably put a packet together too with some of the information of, you could do like how we acquired the property or how the investor acquired the property, give a short story and stuff like that, just so that they have it and it's branded. And so that they can kind of take home with them, sit it on their desk, and then when they need somebody in the future.
Yes, I think my philosophy was like, I wanted to keep this simple and I didn't want to create barriers for the people involved, right? So if I'm the facilitator and I'm the realtor, in most cases, that was my job. Or in that case, I was an investor partner of CT Homes, but I was also selling the property, right? So I put together a packet, like it says here on the bottom, tip subgroup packet for each attendee could be helpful. I don't know if I would go into the story of how I acquired it in detail in the packet. I think that's a better conversation. But I would put in there,
I mean, like more
maybe
branded.
the deal analyzer. Maybe you put in there a PDF of the deal analyzer, right? How you calculated the numbers. Scope of work could be in there in the packet. Plans, maybe like a small little page of plans, right? And then comparables that the realtor will give, right? And that makes sense. And then of course, everybody's branded for each section, right?
Okay.
So yes, the answer is yes. Just also don't want to put a lot of work on someone if you're the one facilitating it and trying to tell the contractor like, hey man, like put together this, like they're not going to do it. Like, you just want them to show up, right?
Yeah.
If you're the investor and you're the one doing it on your own rehab, which you should, well, then you take the lead on it. And then you just tell your realtor like, hey, what I need from you is I need the comps. Send me the comps so I can add it to the packet, right? And everything else, you handle as the investor, right? So then let's continue. So how you found the property, how you analyzed it. So this is the deal analyzer part, right? So discuss that, share the numbers. And it's really good if people can see the deal analyzer, the PDF, and then you can break it down. Like, look, this is how much I accounted for hard money and or I had private money, and how you structured that, right? How did you finance it, right? Where did the money come from? Is there a first and a second? Like discuss all those details, right? And then the rehab plans, of course, if there is no contractor there, then you do it as the investor, right? And discuss that and what the vision is and all that. And then of course, sales and marketing, like we talked about, this is where the agent is going to shine. And if you're in a seller's market, like you should think about what are some of the like unique things that you do as a realtor that will make you look like an all-star, right? So you want to think of like, look, so I want to give you an example, like here, you know, we're in a seller's market here in San Diego. So here's one of the concerns we might have, right? We might get 15 offers on this house when I list it at this price. And here's the strategy that I take on my list price that my investor agrees to. Comps are showing, you know, 600. We're going to list it actually at 575. Why do you ask? Well, because I want to actually get everybody here and create a frenzy. And I'm going to get 20 offers on this thing guaranteed in today's market. But then the issue we're going to probably have potentially is an appraisal issue because someone is going to love the house so much that I'm going to get them up to 650, right? Well, that's great that I have 650, but what if my comps support 620? What do I do as a realtor? Well, we need to then negotiate upfront the appraisal contingency, right? So these are, these are the things I would start planting seeds as I am talking about my sales process to show them how creative I am from a negotiating standpoint. Because what my goal is as the realtor there for other investors that potentially are there to listen, and maybe even just the regular Joe Schmo from the public that you invited that maybe, you know, you want them to invest as a private lender, sees like, oh man, this realtor is freaking good, man. I'm going to have him sell my house, right? Like that's what my goal would be if I'm that realtor, right? So I need to think of different like nuggets that are just like, that I know they probably don't even know how to do and never even think about, right? And be like, look, but when the market changes, then our strategy changes. Like a year ago, the market was flat, right? So we did this approach, and you get what I'm saying? Like, you need to look like an expert. So you got to bring those points up. All right, how to leverage it to generate new business opportunities. Oh no, this one, I skipped the slide. So who to partner with to market it and run it. So we were talking about realtor who brought the deal, escrow representative, attorney. So if you're an attorney state, crap, man, ask the attorney like, hey man, do you want more exposure? Like I would love for you to come, right? If you're an escrow state like we are in California, I'd be like, hey man, do you want more business? Like come on in and maybe talk about some of the paperwork aspect of what it took to get this wholesale, right? And how you navigate, and because you're so familiar with working with investors, right? So you give them a little bit of a spotlight, right? Title, representative, right? Bring them in. Like I would literally call every vendor that is involved in that rehab and give them an opportunity to be part of this unique experience, right? And if they're wanting to grow their business, they're gonna jump on this, right? If they're not, then you have the wrong vendor. Like if they're like, yeah, that sounds cool, but whatever, like we're not interested. Like, all right, I'm gonna probably take my business somewhere else, right? In the future. Hard money, right? Private money. So if you're using hard money and that's what you use to take that property down, bring that person, right? If you use both private and that private lender feels comfortable coming, invite them. Now, they don't need to maybe be, some private lenders, they're like, look, man, don't let anybody know because I don't want to be bombarded with these people that I have, money, but I will come because I want to see. Cool. I respect that, right? And I would rather have you only lend to me. So I get it, right? But I still would encourage them to pop in and just be one of the attendees. And then, we don't need to disclose the fact that he is my private lender or she, right? Architect, mortgage lender, right? Someone that you're going to be working with on the marketing. So this is the realtor would bring their contacts, because usually like myself and Eric, we have a relationship with a great lender that we're leveraging for marketing and cross-qualifying, right? When we get too many offers and we're like, holy cow, I don't know which offer is the best one. Well, sometimes we might need to have the buyer's lender talk to our lender for cross qualification, right? So that's maybe where that lender can have a little bit of a spotlight of what is their role with us in this project, right? And then of course, contractor, like we talked about, but it doesn't have to just be one contractor. It could be, trades you could bring in if you want, but I wouldn't go too deep with it, because if you have too many people, then it becomes a bit overwhelming to facilitate, right? And manage who speaks and how long, and so I would probably keep it to about 3 main characters, which would be someone that speaks on the acquisition, the rehabbing, and the sales. But then the other ones, like the title and like your vendors, like those type of people, you need to make sure that you tell them, like, look, I'm only going to give you like a minute, right? Because it could quickly get out of hand. Okay. So that's how I would approach it. But you need to set those expectations beforehand, right? Because if people are not told, like, hey, you're only going to have a minute, they might literally just talk for 15 minutes and it's kind of awkward. And some people are not comfortable cutting others off. But as a facilitator, you have to be comfortable with that. Be like, hey, you're bringing up some great points, Mr. Lender. We just, we're tight on time and I want to make sure we cover everything. So how about we stop right there? But thank you. But you got to be able to do that, right? But to remove that awkwardness, you got to set expectations beforehand. That will help. Doesn't mean they won't get out of hand and keep talking too long, but it can help potentially save you. And then the last thing would be, so how to leverage this? So tell your partners to invite others, of course. Create an event on Eventbrite. So that's how we manage the registrations. So I would highly recommend that, because you do want to kind of know how many people are going to, potentially be coming. From experience, expect about 50% show up rate. And that's a good show up rate. So if you have 50 people registered, don't think 50 people are going to show up. Not a chance. Probably 25. So that's usually the standard I would go by. Personally, invite realtors you've worked with, that you close deals with. So this would be more for the investor, right? So again, if you're the investor putting one of these on at your rehab, then I would reach out to realtors that I've done business with and invite them, right? Because again, I want to rebuild that relationship and keep engaging with my realtor network and make it real to them. Like, look, I'm in business. Like, this is what I continue doing. So you remember you brought me that deal a year ago we closed on, like, come on in, I'm doing another one. I would love for you to come to this, free education session, right? So I would invite those realtors, even realtors that you offered on. You might have not even done deals with yet, but you offered on their listings, invite them. You never know who's going to be interested in this. And then again, you're in the spotlight because you're facilitating it, right? Invite other investors. So that's the idea there would be, why would I invite another investor to my own investor flip? Well, because there could be potential future joint ventures and them wholesaling properties to you, right? So the more you kind of start working together with other investors, the higher probability is that you're going to do some business together, right? So don't just have an abundance mindset to all of this, right? Always, right? So we would invite other investors that we've done wholesales with, to or from. Why not? Invite your private lenders like we talked about, current and future, makes their investment come to life, right? Invite family and friends like we talked about, because that could be a potential referral source for you if you're an investor or a realtor, right? And private money source like we talked about. And then promote on social media, which people would love this type of footage. If they see you doing one of these live and there's some footage that you're going to catch of that, people dig that stuff, man. Like when they see you walking through a rehab, and especially if you're educating them, right? So if they couldn't make it, great. Post a few videos and clips of it on social media and be like, hey, are you interested in coming to the next one? Let me know, and I'll tell you when I'm going to do the next one, because we're going to do the middle stage in a month. right? So kind of leverage that for the next registration waiting list, right? And once you start doing this on a regular basis, it just becomes easier, like everything else, right? Because now you have a list of interested people you've marketed to. You have a list of people that register for the last one. So you're going to remarket to them, right? So, and then it starts compounding. So then it's like clockwork, man. The process becomes easy. And I would literally do these every couple months, you know, and that's how we got our name out. As an investor here in San Diego, when we were new, no one knew who we were. Boom, right here. One of the best strategies we've done, bar none. And I would, if I would enter a new market as an investor and I wanted to be known quick, I would start doing rehab subgroups. It would literally cost me $20 for some cases of water. That's it. And some ink off my printer to print some stuff, and 2 hours of my time. So pretty simple stuff. Any questions on that? I think that's the last slide. So I'm going to open it up for questions, comments, anything else.
So Randy, how many people would you put as the cutoff list? I mean, the cutoff number for registration, because you don't want too many people there. And I know you said look at about 50% of those that you invite may show up.
Yeah, so I think I would cap it at 50 people, knowing that 50% of registered people will show up.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, you know, you can do it a little differently depending if you have the time, right? You can create a little bit more, what's that word? Urgency, or no, it's another word where there's only a few spots. What am I looking for, Eric? Scarcity, right? Like, yes. So you might say, look, we only have 20 spots, right, available. So maybe you don't need to start with 50 on the beginning. You start with only 20, right, to get that first wave of people like, oh crap, let me make sure I get my spot, right? Then you can come back, you know, a few days later, like, hey guys, we've been able to accommodate more people at this project. It's a bigger house, so we're going to raise it from 20 to 40, right? So we have 20 more spots. So that's another way of creating, you know, urgency, scarcity, so people take action, right? Faster to register.
Yeah, I think so. Like my takeaway from this for everybody, when me and Randy were kind of talking about what topic to do, I think my biggest takeaway for like this and even last week's, anything you can do to set yourself apart from not being what everybody else is doing, do something creative and provide value. And this one I love, just like this and meetups, because not only you're providing value, but you're bringing other people in there. And I've learned in my business, when you bring other people along with you, whether it's a private money lender or hard money or like a regular lender or a title company, when you bring other people along with you for the ride and you try and grow their business as well, it helps you. Same with investors, but it also builds just so much credibility, and nobody is doing this. So if you're inviting, like if you're an agent and you're inviting a ton of investors to this and wholesalers and all this other stuff, they're gonna be like, nobody else, there's a million agents in this market. None of them do this. None of them take the time to do it. And it's really not, I mean, what Randy just went through, it's not that hard to set up, but it creates this like where they're like, I want to work with him and not all these other realtors. And then if you're an investor, it's the same way. You have all these people that attend, investors and everything, they go, nobody else is doing this. So it makes you stand out. And if you don't do stuff like this, you just become the routine investor. It makes everything tougher. You're not top of mind for people. So I love it. Like I'm definitely going to be doing this in Tampa here soon. I'm probably going to have my team watch this and have them do it in Cincinnati.
Because if you think about what we talked about 2 weeks ago, you can almost take this as like the first thing you do. And then as you start building your list of registered people, right, of who starts coming to these, then that could be your launch for the happy hour meetup that you later do, right?
Yep. So
it's almost like could be a stepping stone to a bigger networking event at a restaurant or a back room of a bar, whatever, like we talked about 2 weeks ago. That could be much easier of a approach potentially, right? Because these people now know you, they trust you, they've been at one of your projects, you've done maybe 3 or 4 of them. And now you have a list of, I don't know, 80 people that have come through the 4, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
It'll be much easier to start a meetup from that point.
And I would almost think your attendance on this would be better because for most investors and agents that are trying to get into this business, this is where it starts to get real. You can go to as many meetups as you want, have networks and collect business cards and hand out business cards. But like for most investors, actually walking a property and getting an idea of what does a rehab look like? How do you acquire the property? What do those numbers look like? What does it look like when it's actually being fixed up? Because I know I've worked with investors and they're like, I really want to get in the business. I really want to get in the business. And then I've walked them through a home and it's like shock. Like they're like walking on top of, somebody who left the house like belongings that are like a foot and a half up to the wall and you've got cockroaches everywhere. And it's like, yeah, this is investing. And it's like sticker shock for them. That's too much too soon. And they're like, yeah, I'm just going to wait on investing for a while. So,
Or they're
Like,
going
I
to be
love
like,
this
okay, let
idea.
me just give you my money. I don't want to be doing a rehab. Can you just
Yeah,
take the money and
which
give me
isn't
12%? Okay.
yeah, exactly. But I love this because it's tangible, it's helpful, you're providing value. And I can guarantee you in every market, there's probably maybe a handful of people that do it in every market. I mean, maybe.
If at all. Like,
Yeah.
it's so
I've
not common.
never seen anything like this in Cincinnati. And that's a huge investor market. Never seen anything like this.
Renee says, Renee, are you able to unmute yourself if you're still on? I can't see her here.
Yeah, I can. I
Okay.
actually wasn't able to attend that, but it was really cool. I heard it went over really well. And she was trying to raise funds, so she invited investor clients and it was by invitation only. It's a historical property on the lagoon over here in Carlsbad. And then she's going to be able to build out, I think, 6 more units on it. So she was looking for funds, even though she has hard money.
Got it.
She's doing some other additional as well. So yeah, it was really great from what I heard. And it was kind of a quote special property. So people were really interested.
Yeah.
And anyway, it's going to be, yeah, it was a great way to do it. And then she has a realtor, but because they're related. But anyway, that worked out for him too.
Shoot your shot anyways. I'm just kidding though.
Yeah.
I love that, it's another spin on it, like making it very exclusive, invite only, right?
Yeah.
And especially too, if you have like unique properties, man, like those are like home runs to do them on, right? So if there's a property that's, maybe here in San Diego could be built 100 years ago and it's on River Rock. We've had one of those here that we've renovated, right? So you then use that angle, be like, learn how we restore a 100-year-old home built on River Rock. Like, so find an angle too for a marketing perspective, if you can find one, right? If you're a typical 3-2 cookie cutter home, then whatever, man, it's not that easy to find an angle like that. But so you shift the marketing just to the actual what people will get out of this. But if you do have an angle, then leverage that because people love unique stuff,
Yeah. And I would think that like one of the reasons that somebody went into this would be that they like don't know who to invite, or like I would think like one of the apprehensions here would be like, okay, but who am I going to have it do this if I do partner with an investor? And I think like partnering with somebody like a wholesaler who's well connected, has a really large buyers list already in place, partner with them and say, let's do this. Let's co-market it. You can put your stuff out there. We'll have you present what you're looking for, how you do it, how you take care of it. I want you to invite your entire buyers list. And that right there takes care of a big portion of it. So like, I think there'll be, if you kind of sit down and think about it, there'll be some apprehension because there is stuff that goes into doing this, but it's not that hard to kind of come up with some unique ideas to get people to show up and have it be successful.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to market.
Can I mention something? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, go for it.
Yeah, so she's a friend of mine for years and she's been in business for like 30 and doing these kind of things. But anyway, she reached out to some realtors so they could invite people to bring, that were the investor type. So that was helpful too. And then she'd pay a percentage off of that. So this is kind of another creative idea.
Oh, like meaning like she said, hey, if you get someone that invests, I'll give you a point or something.
Yeah, like 1%, actually.
I love
So I invited like 5 people and, you know, 2 were able to make it, and whether they invest or not, I don't know. It's got to be attractive to them. She's paying like 9 to 11% annually. So
it. Yep,
it's kind of a win-win as well.
got it.
Yeah,
Just an idea.
Yeah, I love that.
that's a
because
really
then
good idea.
now you're incentivized and money talks, right? Why not? You're gonna help your network. You're letting, you know, like, hey, you got to make your own decision. I'm just gonna put you in front of a great opportunity potentially, but you make your own decision. And then if they invest, then you get a point. Like, brilliant. I love it.
Thank
Good
you.
stuff.
It's a really good idea.
Any final questions, comments as we wrap up?
This
All
was
right.
really good.
All right, thank you.
I'm looking forward to connecting with some other investors. I missed out on the opportunity of a project that was going on. This would have been perfect for, but I can go create another one. Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
good stuff.
cool. All right, guys. Well, thank you again. See you in, wow,
2
August.
weeks.
August.
Yeah.
First Thursday of August. Crazy, man.
Yep.
It's flying.
Thank you.
All right. Adios.
Bye.
See you
Bye-bye.
guys.
Bye, everyone.